development, if that's what you guys are doing. They're managing all the investor relations to the extent you guys are later refinancing or selling the property, they handle that. So, first there's the sponsors and then there's everybody else. Those are the passive investors, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first part of this. The second is to figure out what you want to do, right? So are you going to wait around for the ideal project to become available, right? And you're specifically raising money for that project. If that's what you want to do, that is what we call a single asset syndication. So when your investor invests, they sit there and they are investing in both the group of sponsors, and they have a specific property that they can underwrite. Now, the other option is what we call a blind pool, right? Blind because we don't really, blind pool. It's blind because you're blind as to what the specific property or properties are, right? So what's really happening is you're coming up with some sort of business plan, right? It can be, hey, we want to take down multiple multifamily buildings in the DC metro area, right? It can be like, oh, we want to do student housing across the country. It can be, hey, we're doing a fund to finance the flipping of a bunch of houses. Whatever it is, you've got some sort of general business plan. That's what you're conveying to your investors. And your investors are really investing in you, the sponsor, because they trust you, right? There are no other properties for them to underwrite. So those are basically the two different strategies. And you basically have to figure out which one you want to take. Am I going to wait for the specific deal, or am I going to raise money prior to the deal, and then they rely on me to go find a good investment property and deploy the capital? Are you with me so far?
I'm with you so far, yes.
Okay. So up until now, this is a very traditional offering. Like, people do this all the time all over the country, right? Now, where things get a little bit different is with the crowd aspect. So let me break this down for you. If what you're doing right now is you are going out and approaching people you already know. Maybe you know all the people in your Meetup group. Maybe you're approaching friends and family, but basically people who are in your pre-existing network of investors. That's what we call a more traditional raise. And that law has been around for, several decades, right? And basically the law says, hey, you can go out, you can raise as much as you want, but you can only raise it from mostly accredited investors, so basically rich people, and up to 35 non-accredited investors. And a lot of syndicators will usually use this method because, maybe if they're like raising $4 or $5 million, honestly, you're going to get large checks anyway, and you're going to want large checks, right? And then you're still allowing a couple friends and family to participate. Now, the other thing, which is what I think you're very interested in, is what we call investment crowdfunding, right? So investment crowdfunding means, okay, now we're not just going to our friends, our family, the people that we already know. Now we are actually going out to everybody. So people that we don't know. We call it general solicitation. You can basically call it advertising, right? So what general solicitation is, hey, I have a deal, whether it's for a specific property or for a fund. I am going out and I am tweeting about this. I'm posting on LinkedIn. I am, going to other people's meetups and grabbing the mic and like talking about my deal, right?
Right.
Maybe I go and try to get my deal listed somewhere on the internet, right? Something. So we're basically now pushing a lot beyond our initial crowd. Now, when it comes to crowdfunding, there is strategy involved, right? Like everything in life, things come down to marketing. To the extent someone is more of a beginner, right? They're trying to do this for the first time. They don't have that much experience maybe in multifamily or capital raising. It's much better for them to specifically identify a property because they don't have that much of a track record to fall back on, right? You're basically going out to a bunch of strangers. You're like, give me money and I'm going to do something with it. Trust me. It works much better if you say, this is the property you're investing in, trust me, versus give me money and I'll do something with it, trust me, right? So that is what I would say for the experienced syndicator in this space. Now, if you have a much longer track record, right? Let's say you've been doing what you're doing for 5, 10, 20 years. Let's say you have a podcast, or maybe you've been a real estate instructor, and so you have a long list of students that you've trained in real estate, and they would like to invest with you, but traditionally they haven't been able to. That's really where crowdfunding comes in really handy because, it can be very difficult. People will spend a lot of money on the marketing to go try and attract these new investors. Mm-hmm. And so what I always say is it's a lot better to use crowdfunding to the extent that you already have an audience or an email list or a customer list or whatever of people that already kind of know you, already kind of trust you, but you just haven't traditionally been able to take their money in the past. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. We have how many subscribers do we have?
430.
430 subscribers to this group. Now, we've never had more than 20 people in the room.
So for the Meetup, because I actually run a Meetup in LA as well, the thing about Meetup is that you have the subscribers, but you might not have their emails, right? And the emails are very important.
Yeah, they're
so.
Yeah, because some of them are like private.
Yeah, we're working on that. Yeah.
We have to offer
Yes.
incentive like a $5 Starbucks. Give you some or some kind of
True. Mm-hmm. Or access to a special recording that has good information.
But at least it's a group of people who are interested. If we can attract them through our marketing to something that's interesting. We try to attract them.
Yeah.
But meetings are not as interesting.
Yeah. So, it would probably good not just for you guys to reach out to your Meetup group, but, to the extent you're doing crowdfunding, let's say, for example, you're like, it's been a while since I lived in DC, but when I was there, they were like revitalizing the H Street corridor, right? Like people were totally flipping houses over there. So let's say your project was, we want to revitalize. What's still a little underdeveloped? Probably Shaw Howard neighborhood, maybe?
No, that's overdeveloped.
No?
Ivy
Anacostia.
Ivy City.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's just choose a neighborhood, right? Like whatever neighborhood it is, if you guys go out and say, hey, we are doing a revitalization investment project for X neighborhood, invest with us, right? Now, if you do this the traditional way, you reach out to, your friends, family, the people that you've met through your Meetup network, etc. If you do this by crowdfunding, you do all the same thing, but now you post on the Meetup group.
Yes.
Now you go try to present at other people's Meetup groups. Now you put up signs around town that are like, hey, are you interested in investing in your own neighborhood? Oh, you are? here's our website.
Yes, yes. That's what we're looking at. I think that's the model that we're looking for. Now, what I wondered was whether you could have it layered so that people could invest either as private lenders or as equity partners. In other words, you could say, we've got this deal on in Ivy City, and we've got 5 houses available to equity investors, and we've got 7 houses available to private lenders, at 12% or something to that effect. Could we do that using the same vehicle?
Yes. So every real estate investment has multiple types of financing, right? So it's not just going to be equity. Very few real estate deals are done 100% equity. People usually bring some sort of financing or debt into the deal. Now, there's a number of different ways to approach it. One is if you already have like hard money lenders who you work with, what you can do or even bank lenders, right? You go raise the equity via crowdfunding, and then you just go get some private loan to cap off the rest of what you need. That's one option. The second option is, to the extent you wanted to go out to the crowd for both types of offerings, right? So what you could do is you could structure a deal where you're like, okay, if you are a Class A member, you just get a straight preferred return and you have priority in payment. If you're a Class B member, then you're really more of an equity investor after the, Class A members get paid their, 8% preferred return or whatever it is. You get an 8% preferred return plus some sort of split, but you are subordinate to the Class A investors, right? And so they're kind of in the same offering. It's not technically debt, because they wouldn't necessarily have a first lien position, right?
Yes.
But they're basically in the same deal. You're basically saying, okay, one person gets priority over another group of people, and they're just getting, a straight preferred return, which looks much more like an interest rate as opposed to an equity split.
Yes, that's great.
How many of those did you?
Yeah. Do people have questions?
Yeah, what kind of entity are you using to use this crowdfunding model? You're talking about, A-level investors, B-level, using an LLC, S corp, limited partnership. What kind of entity are you using?
Yeah, so it really depends on the specific situation of the syndicator. Usually for beginning syndicators, I recommend an LLC structure as opposed to like a GP-LP structure, right? A GP-LP structure is really a lot more for more sophisticated real estate sponsors. So let's say they've got like at least 10 to 15 staff members. They've got a lot of activity happening. They're much more sophisticated, right? So that's really where I see a GP-LP structure coming into play versus LLC is more like, I have some guys who they use the LLC structure, but they've been doing this for 20 years. They're pretty picky. They maybe do like 6 to 10 deals a year, right? But it's 2 guys as opposed to, they have an entire staff or team of people.
Is there a threshold for number of members where you split it out between an LLC or a general partner, limited partner structure? I mean, once you get a certain number of members involved, I guess that'd make it more complicated.
Yeah, so generally, there is a rule that says that if you are doing a specific type of offering, you can basically only take up to 99 investors, right? So they call it like the 99 investor rule. There is, you know, some talk on Capitol Hill and with regulators of raising it to 250, but you know, we've been talking about it for many years, and so I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Are you saying up to 90 members in an LLC?
Sorry?
Are you saying it's okay to have up to 99 members in an LLC?
Yes.
Really? All right.
For certain types of LLCs. It kind of just depends on what you're doing, right? I'm being general here because, like, you know, everything always depends on the specific situation.
Oh, looks like George has a question.
George has a question?
All right.
That's cool.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
unmute you, George.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
Oh, there
I
you go.
wanted to know. Hello.
Yeah, you're on.
Hi.
You're
wanted to
on.
know-
Go ahead.
Great. What's the ramifications as far as the SEC, and do you have to file with the SEC as far as accumulating or paying out the interest rates to the LLC partners?
Okay, so under the specific types of fundraising that I laid out, so for example, I've basically talked about Rule 56B and 56C, right? Under those regulatory exemptions, you don't have to register with the SEC. Registering with the SEC means like you're going public. That's what registration is. And it's a process that costs like $1 to $3 million. I don't recommend it, generally. When you use a regulatory exemption, such as Regulation D, which is the ones I mentioned, you don't file with the SEC. You don't go and ask for their approval. What happens instead is 15 days after you basically close the fund and the money goes hard, then you go and you file a notice filing. We call this a Form D with the SEC. So you're not asking them permission, you're just giving them notice after the fact that, by the way, hey, I raised money, right? And so there's some certain things you disclose, but you don't disclose like the return to investors. They're more interested in like, okay, who's the sponsor? What's their address? What's their phone number? Did you use any broker dealers? You know, stuff like that. So that's what you have to file with the SEC. And then you do have to file a notice filing in every state from which you took an investor. It's not usually a very big deal. It's basically the way for the states to make money.
Right.
States used to regulate this, and these rules basically block them out of regulating it. And so, you know, they're like, okay, fine, we won't regulate it, but we still want to make our money. So, like, you pay a small fee for every state from which you take an investor.
Are you local, and can you assist with that directive as to once you obtain funds from someone that you can help or guide us to know what to file and when to file?
Oh, so first of all, you should not go out and raise funds first. The beginning of the process is not raising funds. It's getting a lot of your documentation done so you don't get sued later on. And then once you get the documents, you use that and you go and raise money. And then you go and do all these filings. But usually people don't do these filings on their own. Like law firms or whatever will do the filings because it can be a process. You know, it's easy for us. It's just harder for people who have never done it before.
So do you assist with that?
Yes, but we don't just do the filing. We basically do the entire gamut. So we represent on the entire deal.
So if I already have a lawyer and we have set up a LLC and we have an operating agreement, and I offer folks an opportunity to invest into a real estate a venture, is that sufficient as far as the paperwork?
No. So if you are basically accepting passive investors, it is a securities offering. So what you need Like, all that documentation I mentioned, you need much more than operating. You would need a private placement memorandum. We call that a PPM, a subscription agreement, a deck, which is actually not prepared by your attorney. It's prepared by you. It's like the investor deck that you show your investors, right? And the operating agreement. And the operating agreement and the PPM have to match.
And can I contact you to get those paperwork, or would my lawyer know what that would be if I approached her?
Well, you can contact me. For your lawyer, it just depends. If they're a securities attorney, then they should know. If they're not a securities attorney, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what kind of attorney you have.
The real estate attorney. They're not a, they
So,
help
for
with
example,
closing.
I don't handle any real estate transactions. I don't handle the closings, right? So the actual acquisition, purchase of the property, that's a real estate transactions attorney. But
Correct.
the capital raising side is securities law. That's something completely different. That's what I do. A lot of real estate transaction attorneys don't do that.
So could I get your information, share that with my lawyer so that you and her can make sure that I'm compliant and not getting in any type of trouble?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Because I have someone mentioned Anacostia. I have I'm working on a 16-unit condo, 1750 square feet in DuPont Park area. Mm-hmm. In the Anacostia area. So I'm getting ready to go to close next week, and I do have hard money funding. I have approached some friends as well as some other folks in crowdfunding meetups, and I have gotten them to not give it to me, but pledge.
Okay.
So
do you have enough to close right now?
Oh yeah, I have enough to close. Okay, but that's not coming. That's not coming from the crowdfunding folks who have given me money. Okay, but not giving me money. They have pledged. I have not received anything from them. They have not sent any funds over a wiring instructions to send it to the. Okay.
I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a heart attack on a meetup.
Yeah. So I need to speak to you directly, probably, to find out what are your fees. Yeah. And then from that point, if we can work on the fees, then I would like to introduce you to the lawyer that I'm working with that have helped me put together the operating agreement and draw up some legal documentation based on what we understand, which you say PPM is going to have to be a part of it. So that's what that's what I need right now, is to have you be a part of my team or me on your team, so that you can make sure that I'm not getting into any trouble.
Yeah, sure. I'm definitely happy to talk with you offline about this.
Yeah,
Do you want to give me the information?
George,
Will you send it to me? Yes.
I'll share Amy's information with you.
Fantastic.
Email.
Okay. Well, those were my basic questions, and also, I know I can't, forgive me, I'm having some medical issues this evening. I'm on some medication, but the real estate agent that's there, I'm interested in also coming to the meeting and present my program, my real estate deal with you, to see if there's anyone there that might be interested in investing in this deal. It's going to be a $4.4 million new construction on Capitol Hill, or DuPont Park, right across the bridge in Anacostia.
Great. That's a nice neighborhood. I like it.
Yeah. That's the next area. When you said U Street, all that's gone. H Street is been revitalized. That's the next area to be revitalized.
Yep, I agree.
So, absolutely. So we already have the land. It's already clear land, and we are first of the year we're going to go to close and start breaking ground. My wife is also a real estate agent with TriStar.
Great.
So, but with the crowdfunding platform is what I'm looking to, those 400 members that you have, I'm looking to attract those 400 members plus 300 from TriStar. And also I want to do a little bit more and advertising to the general public.
Okay, well, we're happy to talk to you, and we'll give you Amy's contact information, and maybe we can figure out a way to work together.
Well, that's why I'm on this phone. So I like the A-B situation in regards to, I already have an A. I need the B people. But I'm going to be quiet now and just listen. Thank you, Amy. I just had to chime in for that aspect. So I think that is going to be very important for my lawyer and us to communicate with you. So thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And I sign off.
Okay.
And I know, Amy, this is your time to hop off as well. So did anyone have any small questions? We have like 1 minute left.
For accounting purposes, do you have any suggestions on once the money's made from the property, how to handle the accounting side of it?
So I'm not an accountant. I'm an attorney. Definitely happy to refer you to accountants or CPAs or whatnot, ancillary service providers. But I don't, advise on the accounting portion myself.
But the record keeping is important, an important aspect of this.
Yes, and generally in syndications, one should, basically keep records for 7 years.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank you, Amy. Really appreciate it. We'll be in touch with you. And if not, George will be in touch with you for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd like to speak with you before I leave town on the 26th. But most definitely, we will be communicating between next year to start setting up that crowdfunding program.
Yeah, sure. Definitely happy.
Happy holidays to everyone, and thank you for letting me chime in and ask my question.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Uh-huh.
Bye, Molly.
Bye, George.
I mean, Mallory. Bye, Mallory. I'm sorry.
Bye. Feel better.
I see you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And
Okay. I thought,